My name is Edward Calahan. I am the president of Calahan Funeral Home. I, along with my lovely wife, Shirley Calahan, who is the vice president of Calahan Funeral Home, provide services here at 7030 South Halsted Street, where we provide services throughout the city of Chicago and the suburbs. We have with us children that's also involved in the business. I have a assistant office manager, which is my daughter, Valerie Calahan Taylor, and also the director of our marketing department, which is handled by our son, Edric Calahan. Business for 32 years, and over 29 years ago, I started a business called Calahan Funeral Service in the facilities of another funeral home. And after 3 years, we moved to this location where we are now, 7030 South Halsted Street. And in those 32 years, we have gone from no families to 350 families per year on an average. We've serviced over 6,500 families in the life of our business. It's amazing. I'm 60 plus years of age. I'm from the state of Arkansas, and when I was growing up in Arkansas, I got connected to a first cousin. Didn't know what he did in the community, but when we got connected, I was at the age of 16. He had a room house, and I actually slept on the back porch for about 5 years, lived with him, and that's how I became interested in the profession. I learned through his services in the community that regardless to the level of life that you are in, whether you are the garbage collector or the president of the United States, the funeral director gets the opportunity to serve that family. So as a result of that, and seeing that the funeral director and the interacts with every level of society, I became interested in this profession, and then did service in the United States Air Force, and then moved to the city of Chicago and met my love of my life, which is at that time Shirley Taylor, who actually is the vice president of our company, Shirley Calahan. In the next year, I see us sharpening our pencil for a higher level of service, simply because there is a higher rate of cremations now. We are teaching the community that you still need to do some form of service to reflect on the life and legacy of your loved one. In the African American community, for whatever reason, we seem not to be able to connect in a strong way relative to family reunions or the graduations of family members and that kind of thing. But for whatever reason, when we lose a loved one, it has a tendency to draw people from all areas of the country. And I think that we have to be very careful in how we respond to this industry. I think that we as a community still need to do some form of level that draws our family members together. Actually, more so now than ever, more so in the majority culture, but it is moving into our community in that individuals can actually do a complete funeral arrangement through the computer. They can go online, select their funeral home, select their services, and decide where they want to hold their services. They cannot eliminate the funeral director. You still need a licensed funeral director in order to process the necessary paperwork, including the signing of a death certificate and actually being able to prepare the remains. You have to have a licensed embalmer to do that. And so you can also, through technology, film the entire service, where a person can be in the state of Arkansas and still view the remains and in complete service of their loved one without having to travel to attend that service. It can be almost, I mean, you can do it from the comfort of your living room. And so technology is very important in this industry, and it's also very important as it relates to how you promote your services. We get calls many times as a result of having a website, and we get compliments as to how our website is set up and the offerings of the various levels of services that we provide. So technology is very important now, and is going to be more important in years to come. It's like any business. Human capital is very expensive, but yet if you're going to run an effective business, you need to have the right staff members. In 2005, when my youngest son graduated from Florida A&M University, he came home and said, "Dad, we're going to have to upgrade our services and our staff." I said, "Well, what do you mean?" He said, "Dad, we have to employ younger people." As a result of that, probably between 65 and 75% of my staff happen to be individuals from 25 years to about 35 years of age, simply because they have technological skills. They're able to answer the phones even as a receptionist. As the one that I have here, one of the most effective and professional receptionists probably you will find in any funeral home in the city of Chicago. As a matter of fact, we get compliments from across the country as to how she answers the phone. Yet she's a receptionist, yet she's a college graduate. She's a Southern Illinois University graduate. And so that is what we have done in this business, and yet every 2 weeks that those checks have to be ready for them, and so that's one of the challenges in the business. Other challenge in the business is being able to stay ahead of the changes. Probably the funeral industry is probably the last industry that have not gone through a complete revolution. The car industry, the food industry, the clothing industry, almost every industry, even the church has gone through a revolution. And we are experiencing that now in our industry. And as a result of being abreast of it, we are getting in front of the changes. I don't allow my emotions to build up relative to a family that I'm serving, simply because I'm a professional. They came here to select me because they thought that and feel that I'm able to provide the necessary professional services for them at their lowest time in life, when they've lost a loved one, when they've lost a mother, a child, a husband, a wife. And they want someone that's able to provide that professional services. It is unfortunate that you compared me to a police officer or a homicide investigator. I look at my position at the same level as a doctor, same level as a lawyer. I have been trained. I have received the experience that's necessary to provide the necessary level of services that will properly satisfy that family, where they will have some positive, memorable times as relates to or a positive memory as relates to what happened at the services that we are providing. So I cannot allow myself to be overloaded with emotions because I'm servicing families on multiple levels throughout the week. So I don't take those emotions home with me, because I still have to be a husband, I still have to be a father, I still have to be a family man. All right. What's changed mostly in my business since it started? When I first started, 99% of my businesses were traditional funerals, where you picked up a loved one, you prepared the remains, you dressed and casketed the person, and took the person to a service. Most of the time, it was a church service. Since I started in the business, people are doing less and less church services. Many of them want to utilize other facilities outside of the church and have a service of celebration. In addition to that, one of the things that's changed is that there are more cremations now. Sometimes individuals will choose to do a cremation without a service. I don't teach that, I don't encourage that, but I'm seeing that more and more as the time roll on, and I see that I anticipate that within the next 10 to 20 years, over 50% of the services within our community will be cremation related. Uh, and I think that within the African American community, there needs to be more education relative to cremations. Cremation is a form of final disposition, and just because you chose cremation as a form of final disposition doesn't mean that you don't need to do some form of service to properly reflect on the life and legacy of that person, so that there is healthy closure. You may be the person that wants to do a microwave type of closure for your mom or your dad, but there are other family members that you have to consider that may not be comfortable with doing that microwave level of closure. I just don't think it's healthy for the community, but that's one of the things that's happening. That's one of the things that has grown in our community. In the majority culture, cremations have already risen to the level of about 50%. And it is expected within their community, within the next 15 or 20 years, there will be a 65% cremation rate. First of all, I stayed in Inglewood simply because everybody can't move. For whatever reason, we often start out in communities like this, and then once we become what we consider profitable, then we move. Well, this is mine and my wife's feeling relative to why we stayed. Somebody has to impact the community. At one time, not only in the city of Chicago, but it was true that the village did make a difference, because there were members in the village that ran businesses. There were members in the village that owned the grocery stores, the gas stations, and the beauty shops, and the funeral homes. And also there were very effective individuals from the churches. So as a result of seeing what was going on in this community, which at the time when I moved here had a population in Inglewood of about 60,000 people, I saw the needs. I saw the needs of young people needed to be encouraged and needed to be mentored. As a result, as a matter of fact, we have the Calahan Foundation, where we provide scholarships to first-year college students from underprivileged communities. And so we do that, and then we have a mentoring service. We cannot move away from the community and not be accused of being the one that caused some of the things from a negative perspective to go on in the community. My wife and I, we speak to high school students, we speak to elementary students, we've spoken to college students. As a matter of fact, at one time I was on the advisory board of the business department at Kennedy King College. So that's one of the reasons that we stayed here in this community. We've connected to other businesses. I make sure when I get my programs printed that they're printed by an African American business owner. And when I buy my flowers, I make sure that those flowers are bought from an African American florist. I make sure that when I buy my cars, that even though they may not own the dealership, but I do make sure that I purchase those cars through an African American salesperson. If we don't participate in making sure that the dollars travel through those that look like us, then we cannot blame others for what is happening or what will happen in our community. We have to remain responsible for our own community, and that's those are some of the reasons that we will remain here in the Inglewood community, and we will continue to remain here in the Inglewood community. Even if we purchase another location, we will still maintain this location.